And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it. And that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. Tonight I'm joined by my guest, Mick. Mick, thanks for coming on here and talking with me.
Hey, Brandon, thank you so much for having me on. I know we weren't able to hook up before. I'm really excited about this. And one more time, happy birthday.
Thank you very much. For the listeners out there, would you like to let them know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Michaeline. You can call me Mick, and I am a psychic medium who is a co-founder of a paranormal team, and I am a Reiki master as well. So I do spend, and I do have a day job, unfortunately. I mean, a lot of it, like with the house cleansings, that sort of stuff, when somebody's reaching out, they need help. I don't normally charge people to come in and cleanse my team because it's not just me, to come in and do a cleansing. Actually, I have one Saturday that I had to put off from a week ago. I had flu. Um, it's been busy since November. This is my fourth one. So I don't know what's going on. During COVID, it seemed like a lot of stuff was going on as well. But, it is what it is. When somebody calls you in, I mean, they're usually in dire straits. They, exhausted everything. So we come in and me and my partner, my brother helps a lot. He's part of the team. And we go in and we cleanse. We do an actual cleansing of the house, which might be like a religious rite, although I don't necessarily say I'm religious. I am spiritual, but I was raised Catholic. So we do that in the house. I mean, we use, gosh, so blessed salt, holy water, Palo Santo, blessed oil, frankincense and myrrh. I mean, anything. I mean, we use everything. If we're coming in to do it, we're either going big or we're going home. And then my partner, Samantha, she's been like a practicing Wiccan her whole life. So because, nature and all of that is, basically, what Wiccan is, and, working with those deities and, respecting nature and all that, she does the outside. So we always do a good cleanse inside, and then we do one outside. And if it's really bad, or if it's a lot of land, we actually have to partition the land off. We had one in November, and this place was huge. It was 10 acres, but I mean, we can't put a border up on 10 acres. So basically, to make a safe place for them where they're not crossing a border and getting back into the house once we cleanse, then we do that. We salt. She uses moon water. She'll use whatever like herbs that she feels would be best for the job. And then for these people, we actually had to put like old-timey iron metal railroad stakes into the ground at certain points. And you never know, how it is, and, they're always asking, I mean, really, unless we get feedback, how do we know? But right after we did that job, the homeowner sent me a message, and she's like, "Look it." And the spirits could not cross the barriers that we had put up. I have a huge glowing light and everything else. So far so good. We spend a lot of time doing that. I am a psychic medium as well. So, I do readings. I work in a shop on Sundays in Livonia, Michigan, called Illuminate Your Spirit, with a bunch of different healers and, tarot readers and energy readers and all of that.
You mentioned railroad spikes. How did that come about? Like, for some reason, that's what stuck out to me is like, of all things, where did the railroad ties come into?
Iron, because they're made of iron, the
Okay.
old-timey ones,
That's kind of what I was
and
thinking.
yeah, that's what it is the iron. I mean, I know with your tinfoil, you probably touch on a lot of things, but like fairies, that sort of stuff, they have an aversion to iron. So, and that is true with the spirits. So when we have like a particularly big, or I don't want to say it was bad, it wasn't bad, but there was such a culmination of spirits there, energies, whatever you want to call it, that I mean, it was ridiculous. And if we didn't partition that land off to make it safe, they would all come back into that house before we came in. Actually, when they came in. So I don't normally, when I do a cleansing, go in and investigate. But I didn't know what was going on. And this was actually referred to me by another she was a Reiki master tarot, and she had gone out, she had done her thing, and I guess she ended up telling the homeowner, like, "You might wanna consider moving." And by chance, you say in the spiritual realm, there is no coincidences, but her and I had crossed paths, and she was talking about it, I'm like, "Well, that's actually, that is one of the things that I do." So she referred me to them, and when we went in, I don't know, are you familiar with, like, what an ST session is when you're dealing, like, with a paranormal investigation?
When it comes to paranormal investigations, when people ask you to come out or something like that for them, typically, what is some of the things that you encounter with that? Like, do you feel that it's trapped spirits, or you feel like there's something else to it?
Well, so when you go in, whether I'm investigating, so we actually investigated, and one of the tools that we use is called an SD session. So you have one person who is, I mean, basically they are kind of deprived of any kind of sensation. So we have them blindfolded. That person is also wearing headphones, and there is a program playing. The one we use is like almost like backwards Latin. So if anything you're hearing is like, language, I want to say English because that's what we speak. But if anything comes through in English, then you know like, that spirit you're connecting. I personally don't like it. I don't like it. It's overwhelming to me. Like it muddles my senses. So we like to do it because then I can hit on like the questions that I want to ask what I'm picking up. And when they, respond, they respond. In this specific house, I found this extremely interesting. When we got in and we did the SD session, it's before we even started, like we got Samantha set up. She's on a different part of the room. Me and the family are sitting at one part. And the first thing that Samantha came out of her mouth is, so what it would be, she just repeats what she is hearing. And it was, "Are you going to make us leave?" And I had to be honest with them. Yes. You will either cross to the light or you're going to get the hell out of here. So they have that choice. If they want to cross, and that happens a lot where, they've been here for whatever reason, they wouldn't cross. They lose sight of the light. And sometimes that's where, we have to come in and help them. I mean, every situation is different. This one just had so much. Like the house was just built 4 years ago. Like, "Oh, that's a new house." That has nothing to do with it. It was the land. And the land was kinda cool. So back in the day, right where their driveway was, stagecoaches used to use the roads there. And their house at their driveway was the actual Y in the road, and you could still see notchings and stuff around the property. So I mean, you're dealing with land, you're dealing with, just all these spirits. So, there's natives, old timies, and then as an investigator, I personally, because I am a sensitive, because I am a psychic medium, I don't ever want to know anything going into a situation. Right? Because I have to rely on the information that I'm being given, by my spirit team or whatever who's wanting to connect. And with that, I am not careless. Before I go into any investigation, I ground, I protect my energy, I set intentions. Nothing is coming at me. When I go into these situations, I literally have to be the baddest bitch in the jungle. You know what I'm saying? I cannot show fear. I cannot do any of that. So you go in. But with the Estes, yes, you have intelligent hauntings and you have residual hauntings. Residual is just the energy. Energy is never destroyed, right? It just is redirected or turns into something else. So with that, and I mean, the Earth has been around for how many, depending on what you think. But I mean, the Earth has been here, and people have inhabited this Earth for how long?
Do you think that some of the energies that get attached to places are from people that used to be here, or do you think there's outside forces that get drawn into a certain
There are
location?
both. There are both because you will. So in some of the, if so for fun, because I don't go to the bars anymore. I like to do investigations. I saw you were in Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so one of my favorite, I don't wanna call it a favorite, I've been there once, but since I've been there, we're gonna go back, and that would be Randolph Infirmary, and that is in Winchester, Indiana.
Okay.
And it has a long history. It was a lot of these places that are open up for investigations. I mean, usually they're either prisons, reformatories, places where they would dump, the kids, tuberculosis, like Waverly, all those places. They
Right.
have, and they have that imprint. Why? Because there was so many, so much death there. But a lot of times, unfortunately, the people who we put in charge don't do their jobs. So there's a lot of abuse and everything in there. And yes, if you have just that culmination of sorrow and sadness and desperation and you know what I'm saying? Yes, it absolutely will leave an imprint. However, that's where you have the difference between, say, an intelligent haunting where you're able to actually communicate back and forth versus where it's like the same thing over and over again, almost like a recording, or they want to call it a time loop, whatever they call it, but that is essentially what a residual is. It's just that this has been done so many times over and over again that even in death, that imprint is still there for that to be taken. Whereas where you have somebody like a haunting is a spirit or a ghost is who is not moved on. Now, when I do work, people do want mediumship, and that is me connecting to loved ones. So that's usually different. You have to connect to that energy. When people want mediumship and they book an hour, I'm like, how are you cannot keep them for an hour. It's just it's not feasible. In order for them to connect to us, they have to lower their vibrations, to be able to come down for us to be able to connect that way. So you don't ever want to hold them there. You don't want to keep them there. You don't, say, you want the message, you want to give, confirmation, confirm it's who they think it is, you know, to give that message along. So that is like spiritual. Ghosts are the ones who are haunting the homes or these places because for whatever reason, they've not moved on, whether they didn't know they passed, like the younger children and stuff like that. Um, City View really hits me for that one. They had 2 kids come through, and it was brother and sister. And then, like, something happened to one of the siblings and both of them. And I mean, it's just it's a lot when you go into these places, it's a lot. But Randolph, I'll go back to Randolph where you're asking if it's brought in. So Randolph, was a place where they actually, like, hey, um, they'd had a woman, I feel terrible. I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but she had been dumped there, just dumped there. They don't even know if it was her husband who put her there for whatever reason. And she had a room in the basement and she wanted out of there and she wanted out of there really bad. And she got out the only way she knew how, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And when you see her room and the determination she had to get this done, it was ridiculous. Like, you're like, "Wow." So, you have these cases, but then it becomes abandoned, And you have people who come in there who do want to, I don't want to necessarily call it spells or whatever, calling in whatever spirits or they can, and they don't like send them on their way. So then you also have those energies coming in. And when I was at Randolph, we were doing an SD session in the basement in the kitchen. And the kitchen was a more happier place, but you still have to come down the hallways and it's split on that bottom. There was a woman's side and a man's side. And I have never seen anything like that in a lot of stuff that happened there. I'd not come across anything like that. Like they were not good. They were not good spirits there. Not I'm not saying all of them, but the ones who were front and center, they were not, and they would mess with you. So we were doing the SD session, and there's levels to this. So we're in the back in this basement. It's probably like 2, 3 AM. There's the main floor, I think a second floor, and then there's an attic. The attic, we had really weird stuff happen up there. So when you're doing paranormal investigating, there's a multitude of tools you can use. So I don't know if you've seen like they do like the light and it's just like a green grid. So if anything crosses through it, it breaks it, you're going to see it.
Mhm.
Well, we were up there, everything's charged, and I could see, I wanna say, like, a little guy I could see it in the corner, I could see it watching us, and I'm kinda talking to it, and I'm in the middle of the room, and this green light turns white, didn't know it did that, and starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So, it's gonna be pitch black, we're like, "Okay, let's get our stuff, we're gonna go." We go downstairs, we test it, it is absolutely 100% fully charged. So we're in the basement, we're doing this SD session, and the gentleman who was, whatever, I asked I like to ask because then I can see if I'm hitting. And I could see above his head. So a lot of times when I'm able to see spirits, they're not good ones. And they can show you themselves how they want you to see them. So above him were, like, these 3, like, shrunken heads, and they're telling him to go up to the attic, and while we had 3 of them run up to the attic, the other, 8 to 10 of us are down there, we're talking. I can see these things above his head, like, I literally, like, like in the cartoons and they see something and it's like, "What?" And, they're, like, wiping their eyes to, like, "What am I seeing?" Like, that's how I was. I'm like, "What?" Because they look almost like outlines, but I could like a hologram almost. I guess that would be the best way I could explain 'em. And, I'm like, "What are your names?" And they're telling me to, basically to go F myself and all this stuff. And I'm like, "No, no." And they're like, "We wanna go in." And I'm like, "You're not going in them. You're absolutely no." And he all of a sudden, like, they're like telling the ones up in the attic, "Now go down to this floor." This floor had a bedroom. And I'm like, "Just bring them back now." All of a sudden, the guy who was sitting there doing the SD sessions, like, whips off his headphones, and he's like, "I don't know what's going on. This has never happened before." He's like, "But they're trying to get in me." And I'm like, "Yeah, they are." I'm like, "I'm doing the best I can to like, no, you cannot do this." But it was a it was a really different place. I don't even know how to describe it. An energy like a never like I said, I've experienced some stuff never experienced before. This entity like coming at you on the top of the ceiling and coming at you almost spinning like with arms and stuff like that. Just la la la, this darkness just coming at you. And we would see people upstairs and there was nobody upstairs. You would see them pacing back and forth. And the place was not good because I would have to go outside because I could feel I was starting to get affected. You get that shaky, that sort of stuff. That's when that grounding and protection I told you I did, that's when you know it's not working. The energies are affecting you and you're starting to feel it. Some people get lightheaded, nauseous, that kinda stuff. I got shaky. I got real shaky in there. Have to leave, ground and protect again. I mean, we put on like, I work a lot with Archangel Michael, and he is the defender of, defeats evil. That's what he does. There's a lot of places that have had a lot of horrible things happen there. And, unfortunately, those are the places that you wanna go to as a paranormal investigator.
When did you first come out to realize that you were like a psychic medium? You had that ability.
For real,
Yeah.
like growing up, yeah, because 'cause I'm not I'm pretty everybody has like this, oh, this is what they're like. So I've always been sensitive. I'd always been drawn. My girlfriend's mother growing up, she actually was part of the Michigan Metaphysical Society. And she had kind of like worked with me with like tarot, that sort of stuff. But I just didn't pick it up. In fact, I still don't read tarot. If I use cards, I read oracle cards. I have a tarot deck I throw them in, but I use like several decks when I read. Um, and, life happens. I always like everyone say like I'm the scaredy cat. Now I know like that was my team, like telling you your intuition, don't do that, don't go there, stay out of there. And, I'm pretty good at listening to that stuff. But like when the calling actually came, we're talking, so this is probably like the last 10 years. So it started with like warnings almost, just a loud voice in my head telling me, "Don't look, don't look in the mirror, don't look in the mirror, don't look, don't do that." My ex hairdresser lived in a haunted house. I didn't know, and he did my hair in what my husband calls fire engine bozo. And my sister and I, and she's sensitive too. She sees big time, but she's not into she's not into that. You know what I'm saying? It happens, she can always talk to me about it, but I hear my greatest, if you get into like the clairs, my biggest gifts are I'm clear audient. I hear, I know, I feel, and I see. It's not as strong as the others. So we go into the house and I start to go up the stairs. And all I hear is, "Don't look in the mirror, don't look in the mirror, don't look," and I just kept hearing it. Oh, it just would not stop. So I go and I had to pee, we were drinking, and and I go to wash my hands. And anybody, you're a man, so you might not appreciate this, but, I mean, if you get a haircut, right? You get a haircut, you wanna check it out in the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fire isn't bozo. My hair was really dark, and I went to a bright red. Would not look in that mirror because that is all I heard. "Don't look in the mirror, don't look in the mirror, don't look in the mirror, don't," so I didn't. I go back downstairs, my sis and I tell her, like, "I don't know, I might be paranoid, this," and she goes, "I'm not going up there." She goes, "You don't see that?" And I'm like, "No." She goes, "There's a green mist up there." And I'm like, "Okay." So I tell her what happens, and then the next time I saw him was in his sorry, I'm getting over flu, was in the salon, and he was talking about all the stuff that happened in his house. I guess somebody did actually pass away in there. Probably not really nice, or they didn't like gay people. I don't know. It's one of the two. But he's like, anytime you come in and you see all the dog bowls and all that stuff up against the sliding glass door, he said the sliding glass door would like fly open by itself and that sort of stuff. And then like, when I started reading professionally and getting into the paranormal has been, like, the last 10 years.
So when you were younger, I feel like a lot of people that I've spoken to, I can't say this is fact, but they seem to had some sort of, I don't want to say attraction, but like things were attracted to them. And that almost feels like to me like when people talk about stuff like that, because you're able to actually communicate with things or see things, you feel like that because you have that ability that you're more prone to outside energies coming towards you.
100%. Well, any of us who has this light on, and I wanna say, like, I'm not special, okay? We all have these abilities. Just some of us are more in tune. But I'm gonna tell you to get into, and some people don't. Some people, it's like, yippee skippy. I fought it for, how many years. So I'm very good at turning it on and turning it off. The office I work at is haunted. And when we're on, I'll send you the picture of George. But I had to cross somebody in our office, and George, I can't make them all leave, and I haven't cleansed. This is their home. And as long as they're cool with us there in the office, then I'm cool with them. And I've been in there. I mean, he's scratched Sam, because I also work with Samantha. He's scratched her. I mean, we've had stuff happen. I had a kitten in there. I had to take him to the vet, so the cat was there with me, and it was messing with the kitten. The kitten was, and this cat is fearless. That cat looked at the wall, backed up, started walking backwards and just shaking. And that really kind of made me angry. So George and I had to have a talk. I had to explain to George who's boss, and that if he were going to mess with a teeny little kitten, then he wasn't gonna like how I counteracted that, and that would be to do a cleansing, and it would be to remove him from his home, and I don't wanna do that. But sometimes you have to have that understand. I mean, it is truly like it is respect.
Mhm.
I've never gone in so I've come across a lot of paranormal teams. I was lucky enough to be on I felt a really good paranormal team, which I learned a lot. So, during that time, that's where I got a lot of my experience, like doing house cleansings and going in and almost like doing an intake, you know? You have to question, because I'm not gonna lie and tell you, like, every single house cleansing I've gone into, has been paranormal. I have absolutely gone in where I thought maybe, and Samantha has a psychology degree, where that what was going on was maybe a little bit in their head, you know what I'm saying? Whether they had some kind of psychosis and that sort of stuff. I mean, and that very, very much can happen, right? But I'm also not gonna discount the fact that, somebody can pick up an attachment or that sort of stuff. But if I'm going in and I'm cleansing and doing what I'm doing, they're not gonna have an attachment. Nothing's gonna be there, because I am literally going in and wiping everything out. And as I leave those rooms, then I'm putting good energy back in there, you know?
Yeah. Do you think that this is not a loaded question, but it could be, depending on
Well, go
how
ahead.
how people feel. Do you think that some of these energies are manifested from the way people are in our world? So, like, just say if you're a negative type person, do you think you manifest that negative energy or you draw it towards
Yes, and I'm
yourself?
gonna tell you this too. So when people do have, let's say there is actual hauntings or spirits around them. So when you heard me earlier talking about being that light,
Mhm.
they will come and they will come. And if they're in your house and you are negative, you are depressive, they will match that's what they're attracted to, these low vibing energies, these, I don't want to say like these bad spirits, but like think of it this way. If you're a good person in life, most likely, in the afterworld, you're a good person. You have the ones who are afraid to cross for whatever reason. And some are religious and some are, I mean, a lot of them are afraid of judgment. That's why they don't go and they stay here. Yes, the lower your vibration is, the easier it is for those sort of energies to attach to you, to be around you, and to be honest, they're parasites. You will never catch me doing any kind of investigation, telling them to touch me, to use my energy. If you go in there with me and they touch me, the first thing I'd say is you have no permission to touch me. You have nothing, because they will. I mean, it's a manipulation of energies, absolutely. And they are drawn to that, and they will feed off of you. And they will, and when you get people, I mean, I'm not, but I mean, yes, it can affect them. You'll get people. I was doing a reading, and it was on video, so I could see, we were looking at each other and I could see this entity, this woman behind her, and I'm like, are you aware?" And she's like, "You see her?" I'm like, "Yeah, I see her." She's like, "Yeah, she's here, and, when I'm feeling sad and, then I always feel she's around." And I'm like, "Yeah, because she's feeding off of that. She's feeding off of all of that energy, that negative energy." Like, that's why a lot of times they try to scare you, fear, all of that stuff, because that's the vibration, that energetic vibration that they understand, that they are attracted to. Like, I'm not going to say I'm infallible. I have actually had an attachment. It was about 2 years ago. It wasn't doing anything paranormal at all. So that would be more of a time where my guard would be down. It was Christmas. I had to see my mother-in-law, and I drank before I went over there. And I picked up an attachment from her. I freaking knew within 3 days. I could feel it. I could kinda see it come out of my peripheral, kinda moving up, coming up, and, the group I was with for 7 years, I just left, I was sick, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna go in and, do some Reiki on you." And Reiki, if you don't know, is like it's an energy healing. I can do it long distance. I can, generationally, that sort of stuff. When they talk about like healing your inner child, that's a lot of times what they're using, going back and healing them. So she went in and she's like, "Well, tell me what you see." And I'm like, "Well, I see like the spoke spinning." And she's like, "Oh, I just, was at your heart chakra and I turned it." And she goes, "Oh." And I go, "What? What?" And she goes, "You got an attachment." And I'm like, "I freaking knew it." I sent her a picture. She's in Philadelphia. I'm in, the Detroit metro area in Michigan. I sent her a picture of what I saw. She sent me a picture of what she had, and they were both, it was similar. And lucky me, it wasn't a human. It wasn't a human attachment. So, I mean, they can get you at any time. I was lucky enough to have somebody take it, but it can happen. I mean, really, it can happen anywhere at any time when your guard is down. That's why, anybody who comes to me when I do cleansings, when I do readings, any of that, I push like the grounding and protecting your energy all the time. And you can't see me, but I'm wearing earrings that are evil eye, 2 different, both wrists, all evil eye. Even my tattoos are protection, Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, the Merkaba, all of that. But I'm gonna tell you, none of that works if you do not set that intention to ground and protect or pray or whatever, you choose to do. I do it all. I hedge my bets.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, honestly, psychic warfare is real.
Have you ever heard of someone being in an area and I know they claim you get attachments or anything, but have you heard from anyone that's been an investigator that feels like they actually brought something back with them?
I know somebody who did.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It was, actually, they were at Randolph, and, it was the barn area. Mhm. And it took her she figured out within a month that she had the attachment. It was a man, and they will come on. But you heard me say earlier, you'll never catch me ever telling them to use my energy or touch me and that kind of stuff. That is the easiest, quickest way to get an attachment. I got it hugging my mother-in-law. Uh-huh.
I just want to make sure, like, when I go out and do things or if I have people with me, like when we were out doing something for my documentary this past weekend,
Hmm.
and before we left, I said that anything around is not allowed to follow us back. You have no
Yes.
permission, and
Hmm.
they had to stay behind.
100%. I also a little overkill, but I have blessed salt in my car, and we will either use like a Palo Santo spray or some moon water to cleanse us before we even get into the car too.
Yeah, I don't. I'm kind of superstitious about some things, but I'm also a little skeptical about a lot of stuff too. So for me, it's like it's almost taboo. But when I go into doing some of this stuff, I'm like, I just feel extra precautious just to be,
Yeah,
to
you
be on the
have
safe
to.
side.
I mean, I mean, truly, especially, I mean, because we might be at different facets, but it is all still the same. We are dealing with supernatural cryptids, any of that stuff, all of that stuff, and some we are able to protect ourselves against, and you absolutely should. Now, I'm just gonna just throw this out there. When aliens come in, there's not really anything you can do, you know. That's for real.
I
That I know of. That I know of.
I know a lot of
That's not to
people
say, but
that
I'm always learning, we are always a work in progress.
I say there's a lot of people out there that think the aliens are already here. So
Well, I do believe I do believe I see, that's why people go aliens, I go, "Eh," like, they've been here for a zillion years. Look at our oceans, look at the pyramids, look at Stonehenge, look at how all of this, like, how do you it doesn't make sense unless that is in the equation, but, we do have ancient civilizations. I was just, reading some stuff on like the tale of Gilgamesh, which is like, which was written like what, 24,000 BCE, before the Iliad, before the Odyssey, all of that. And that has to go with like, Mesopotamia and all that, the crux of civilization, and talking about the Nephilim and all that stuff, and it's all very fascinating. Whatever I go with, what I mean, because we hear a lot of stuff, like, right? You hear a lot of stuff, and some stuff you'll be like, "Dude, that's crazy," like, that no. And then you'll hear some stuff, you'll get those little chills and shit, or you'll be like, "That's for real." And that's what I go by. What resonates with me? What am I like, "Yeah, this is okay." And there's a lot of bullshit out there too, you know? See, yeah, but I always said that before I stepped into my gifts. That was my superpower. I know bullshit.
I always feel like when someone said something about a lot of crazy stuff, I used to think before I started doing my show that there was most of this stuff was all just crazy stuff, like it wasn't real. But the more and more I've dug into it,
Yeah.
the realer it has become. And I don't know if that is a blessing or a curse because it makes me even more curious as to what is actually
What
going on.
else?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when we started doing this, like, I was always the person who didn't watch scary movies. I don't like, at Halloween, I hate haunted houses. Like, I literally am like, walk into a haunted house and hit the ground, like, I'm not moving, like, get me out of here. And then we started once the calling came, and that's the only thing I can truly, it was like a calling, like a pull, like I had to do this. I had to, you know, however it came to, because I didn't know, like, on Facebook, did you know I mean, this is when so naive I was, but I didn't know there were, like, groups on Facebook that were, like, psychics and mediums and all of that stuff. Like, I had no clue. I didn't even know how, but how everything, like, fell into place when they say there's no coincidences, like, I truly believe that, because it's just too coincidental how everything kind of fell in line. And then here I am, and I love it. I look forward to the next investigation. I love it. Halloween time, we have a local greenhouse that has been here for over 100 years. And they allowed us to come in and for them to like raise money for their boiler. We did paranormal tours there and taught people how to use the equipment and that sort of stuff. And all the proceeds and such went to the greenhouse. A lot of time, the only thing I ever charge money for is my readings. That's it. But like the paranormal, doing those tours, going and doing house cleansings, that sort of stuff, I don't ever charge any money for that.
Do you
And I'll tell you, if I read you, I don't ever ask questions. Again, I have to be able to trust the information I'm getting.
that is actually what I was getting ready to ask. I was like, do you ever have people that come up to you and you get a reading from them, but you pick up on something that they probably didn't want you to pick up on?
Yes. 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 I absolutely did. Book club, I read for a women's book club a couple years ago. Actually weird because the psychic who was supposed to do it, she couldn't, so I stepped in for her, and it was the hostess of the party, and I pulled there's a card that comes out, it does not come out often, and I always hate when it comes out, and I kinda danced around it, and she goes, "I wanna touch on this," and I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna be honest, when this card comes out, I usually know, like, there's been some I don't know if I can, SA." And she's like, "I've never told anybody that, not even my therapist." And I'm like, "Well, sweetie, it's coming up, and it might be coming up because maybe it's time now to deal with it." So, yes, there here's another I just did a couples reading, and, she got she got, like, the boyfriend card, and I absolutely would not I didn't say anything. I'm like, "No, there's something more going on here." I don't know if she was hoping, like, I was gonna jump on him. I don't know, you don't know.
Right.
But, what they were wanting, and I hit on, like any couple, he works, he works, he works, she feels neglected, la, la, la. But did I pick up there's somebody she's talking to, somebody in the background? Yes. Did I say anything? Absolutely not.
I wonder if some people have ever, this is just me thinking now.
Yeah.
I wonder if people have ever had that happen to where the person that they were with ended up freaking out on them afterwards because
That's
they had
why
stuff.
I'm gonna tell you. That's why a lot of I work with a psychic, and she so many days a week will read at home. But to bring anybody into, like, the shop, she'll bring them into the shop because she doesn't want somebody to know where her house is in case she's, like, yeah, they're cheap. Because essentially when people come to us, it's either money, it's love, or, they wanna connect with a loved one, right? So when you get the ones with love and is he cheating on me? And you're like, yeah, he is, absolutely. Like, trust your intuition. You're asking me because you're already feeling this. And a lot of times that's why I don't ask anything because I have to, like, again, I have to be able to trust the information that I'm getting is what I'm getting and not something you've said to me. So now, now it's coming out and then I question myself. I can't question myself. If this is what I'm doing, I have to trust the information I'm getting is the best. So I won't ask. I don't ask. Now I'll allow you to ask me questions once I've given you the reading, like, hey, let me do this. I'm going to tell you what I pick up if I haven't hit on it, then, by all means. And I don't want to say, but I'm, and before I do any reading, I always connect to that person's energy and I ask them for permission to do so. And I've had some where, you get people who are gifted and they are a little bit harder because they are more in tune. And sometimes it's a little harder to connect. I had one and I'm like, well, are you going to allow me to connect? And she's like, are they going to let you? I'm like, it's not a matter of if they're going to let me. I'm not going to like bombard you and try to connect because they're not going to if you're not open to it. If you're and that's essentially it. I'm only as good as the person who's allowing me to connect to that energy, to open up, who set the intention so I'm able to do that for them, to give them the information or the confirmation that they're needing.
A couple of years ago, I was doing an event and a random lady came up and started telling me she's gotten this reading from me. And the things that she was telling me was not at all accurate, but I didn't tell her she was wrong. I was just like, "Oh, okay." Because
Well,
it
okay, then let me ask you this. Did it come true later? Did it come to fruition? Because like a psychic, think of that. I can read past, I can read what is happening, what your current situation now, and help you like what future, what that is. So what they told you, I'm okay. So like there's like with anything else, there are great psychics and mediums, and there are some they're fakes, they're shams,
mhm.
straight up. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't let just anybody do a reading on me ever. I'm real particular about who I allow into my energy. And there are a lot of fakes and there are a lot of frauds. And I would never go up and start volunteering stuff with you, first of all. What did she say? Like, I could understand maybe, like, did she say, like, hey, you have a loved one here with you and they want you to know this? Like, that I understand more. You know what I'm saying? But to
N-
go up and to just start blabbering at somebody, something like that, that first of all didn't ask for it. So, and most times anybody who approaches you like that, what's your react? You're like, what do you want? You know?
it,
So there are. I will not seek you out for to read you. Now, have I gotten messages, for somebody and I just pass along the message? Like, I don't ask anything else. Like, I might be like, hey, I dreamt this or whatever. However, I picked it up, and will I relay that to the person? But usually it's somebody it's usually it's somebody who's passed who might have a message for somebody else. And that message might not mean anything to me. It may make no sense. And I'll think I'm crazy to relay it. But, you get that, I don't know, like the urge, like it's not going to go away until I deliver the message. So you have that too, but somebody just coming up to you giving you information that makes no sense to you. No, there's a lot of kooks. And then we also come across a lot of, the quote unquote, these readers, these psychics, these so-called, these shams who reach out to people and they're like, oh, I just, felt your energy and I just wanted you to know. And then they tell you have a curse. You know what I'm saying? And that happens a lot.
that was kind of what this was.
Yeah, they're full of shit. Those people make me so angry. I'll have somebody and I'm like, honey, it's a scam. But first of all, it's only as good as the energy you give it. You know what I'm saying? You cannot focus your attention on that stuff. Like you were talking about, so this would be a great example of that. When you were saying, like, with people and their negativity and stuff like that, will they also attract that? Yeah, same thing. It's the
Hmm.
same thing.
I didn't take put much stock in it, but
Good. Because I have had, and and I'm like, they're full of it. Like, I can't say it any nicer. They're full of shit and they're users and they're scum. And that's what they do. I mean, we there's since the dawn of time. I mean, people, prey on other people what they can get the quickest, the easiest way. And what better than to instill fear and to make somebody think that they need you because they have this, and if you're going to pay me this amount of money and I'll make sure it's gone. Listen, call me. I'll do it for free. Like, but it doesn't. I don't put a lot of bearing into it, but that is me. Now, you might talk to somebody else, who, is a practicing witch, and, they will be like, what's going on? That's this, let's do the candles. Do I have to do a court? I mean, it's like the mindset. I don't give energy into it. Again, when I told you I have to do this stuff, I have to remember and I have to believe I am the baddest bitch in this jungle. And that sort of stuff, nobody's infallible, but for the most part, you keep yourself grounded. I'll actually send you a grounding and protection little meditation, like 7 minutes. Do that before and after you do your stuff. Actually, everybody should be doing it every day, honestly. Like dealing with people, going out, that sort of stuff. It also helps you to, because most of us are empaths and we pick up from everything else. So essentially, what this is almost just encasing your energy. So anything else that is out there that could affect you, it's not going to affect you because you're not allowing it to. That's where the protection is.
a lot of the reason I do my stuff out in my studios, obviously I wanted to get out of the house, but I feel like sometimes the things that I discuss on this podcast can bring in negative energy.
Yes,
And
you are right. Yes,
and I did
because
not
we're
want to do it.
calling it, we're giving it power. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yep.
I keep saying, but you understand what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Is that once we put energy into something and we're calling, like, I'm not gonna lie, I do not watch scary movies by myself. I love to watch Dead Files. I love her. I love their dynamic. It's one of those shows. I don't watch it by myself. And there's just things I don't do. So you are 100% correct. I think you kinda have that same mindset I do, and yes, anything you're giving energy to, you can, and yes.
The lady had cryptically, and this is why I said it's almost like a curse, but she claims if I didn't, I'm trying to figure out remember exactly how she phrased it, but if I don't get it figured out before the boy turns 14, it'll be too late. That
But she doesn't tell you which child, she doesn't
no.
tell you did she tell you any of that?
No. She said that's just what the reading that she got, the voice that she heard, that is what they wanted me to know. I was like, "Well, I have 2 boys, so I guess it could be either one, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be figuring out before the one turns 14, but it's like he'll be this was a couple of years ago, but he'll be 14 next year, so I guess if I don't figure it out before next year, then it'll be too late."
Yeah, but what if it's not him? What if it's the other, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like,
It's
how do
my
you
4-year-old, so I've
that's
still got
too
10 years.
cryptic.
Yeah.
So why put that into your like, okay, so here's another one. As a reader, some people readers will be like, "Yeah, they're gonna die." I absolutely will not because first of all, what can you do? Right? What is this knowledge going to help? I might tell you, you know what? This is probably a really good time to make sure you're spending a lot of time with them. Say what you need to say your piece, do that. But for me to go, nope, they're gonna die, and this is absolutely not. So when I got the calling, that urge, I was told the message I was supposed to give was hope and peace. You know?
Mhm.
So that is where I work from. I work for your higher self. And that's why I'm able to connect and get those readings because I work at a higher vibration to give you the information that you need to be your best self, to help you along the way, to give you clarity, to give you that hope. Because a lot of times when people do come to see us, some of them, you have them come in and they're like a wreck, and you spend that time trying, to calm them down to be able to listen to the message that you have for them. So they know, that things are going to be better. Is it going to be rough now? Yeah. Are you going to survive? Yeah. But you're going to have to take these steps in order for you to ensure success. Because what you're doing, and that's a lot of us, we have a hard time breaking these habits. And we find that these situations that we're in a lot of times mimic what we had been doing. And the universe will do that. They are going to test you and see if you're still a dumbass doing the same stuff.
We've been going on for close to an hour, but there's a couple things I wanted to get to before we end this.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I was thinking about is what is one of the hardest things you've had to adapt to since you've been involved with the psychic ability and the paranormal investigations?
The hardest thing for me is to make sure I mean, like, I am grounded and I am protected, that I'm not going in here. Like, you really do almost have to be, for me, I have to almost, I don't want to say like be in that meditative state, but I have to be in a mindset in order for me to be able to do what I can. So, the perfect example is I told you I picked up an attachment like 2 years ago. I got rid of it, but I took a little break and we went in and I did an investigation maybe about 6 months ago. So I hadn't done anything in about a year and a half. About 6 months ago, we go to it was a restaurant. And I usually what I do is I go in and I tell you like where I feel stuff, and I'm like, put the REM pod there, set, this, do set them up in these areas where where I feel it. And talking about the grounding and protecting. I did not ground and protect when I walked in, and did my stuff. So we get into this corner and they put the REM pad down and it's going crazy. Like it's just buzzing and it's so annoying. The noises bother me. but it's going off, and I'm like, and I started getting chest pains. And I'm like, this guy died here. He had a freaking heart attack or something. I'm like, I'm feeling chest pains. So I go outside, I ground and protect, remember who I am, why I'm here, do all that. I come in, I start talking to them, and they're like, "You already got the guy back there who died of the heart attack?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, um, feeling other people's or the spirits, that sort of stuff. That is why you ground and protect, because as empaths, we are to observe. We are not to absorb. And what I was doing, I mean, I've had it doing readings, you know, all of a sudden a spirit busts through that, and you'll get some who are very, I'm assuming they were pushy in life as well. And they'll come busting through, and you're like, I'm having breathing issues now. I'm having this, and they're like, they had emphysema, and so that is honestly the part I don't. And I'm going to tell you this: I've been very lucky to not come across anything demonic.
Hmm.
That I say is beyond pay grade. And aliens, because aliens you can't really do anything about. But if we came across something that we were not, or a place we were not able to, clear out and secure and that sort of stuff, demonic works differently than like paranormal and ghosts and stuff. So it will be more stifling. You won't really have ghosts there. You won't have the paranormal there. And I mean, and the obvious, stuff they say that comes along with it. The paranormal team I was with that I left, they were they're one of the oldest paranormal teams here in Michigan. So they had a lot of experience, and they, in their 20 years, only 2 cases were truly like a demonic. And at that time, then they'd call in, and actually they actually worked with the old Catholic Church. A lot of the house investigations that we would check out to see what was actually going on would be them sending us in to see if they had to come in. And if they didn't have to come in, we were able to, go in and do the cleansing, or, figure out what was going on and educate. I mean, I've seen a lot of different stuff. A lot of times, and this is just my experience, that a lot of times these houses, these are people who think they are gifted, but they're messing with stuff and not protecting themselves. So when they're opening themselves up and they're, calling on or meditating and that sort of stuff, they don't necessarily like Ouija board. There you go. Perfect example is everybody's afraid of a Ouija board. A Ouija board is only a divination tool. Do I use it? No, I don't. No, I don't need to. I don't want to. But basically what you're doing is you're connecting, and you don't know what you're connecting to. So what you're doing is opening a door for anything to come through and connect with. So a lot of times I have found the houses that I've gone into, a lot of times that's what was happening. And a lot, and you will get them lying. No, I don't do anything like that. I'm like, really? What's that? Because that deck of cards you have right there, I use those cards. So I know what those are for. So, it's I don't wanna say it's but it is carelessness, because they're ignorant to what they truly should do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if you're gonna do something, you make sure you are protected, because this is not something you deal with haphazardly. Like, I was supposed to do that house cleansing Saturday last week. I had the flu. I'm like, "There's no way I can do this in the way my everything is, I'm weak."
The other thing that I was going to ask is, for anyone that's listening, and if they'd like to get in contact with you, do you have something for them to reach out to you at, an email or something you would like for them
Yeah,
to
an email, or I was gonna say on TikTok, on Instagram, and Facebook, I am readings with Michaeline, and it's mi there's only so many Michaelines. Trust me, I am the only Michaeline Collard in this world. Yeah. So, you can find me on, like I said, there, or if you wanna email me, it's Mick, M-I-C-K, K-A-S as in Sam, S as in Sam, A, @gmail.com. If you're in actually anywhere, we do phone readings and we do walk-ins. I'm at Illuminate Your Spirit every Sunday from noon to 4 p.m., and I do readings, and actually I do, I do animal readings as well, and
Okay.
sometimes we have people come in, with their pets.
I was gonna ask, 'cause you brought that up now. So before and have you ever had when someone brought in a pet or anything, how does the animal reading work? Like, do you pick up on the energy from the animal
Yes,
itself or
it is 100% energy, or, the one I just did, he was a nervous wreck, I felt, but I could touch him, the reading room. So, reading rooms are generally kinda small. Imagine a card table, 2 chairs, there might be some shelving and stuff in there, so it was me, the people who brought him in, and it was a golden retriever. And he was so nervous, but I could still touch him because his butt was on me, so I still had him touching. Weirdly, he'd shown himself to me in a past life. I don't You'll say this is crazy, but when I tell them what's going on and what I saw, they're like, "Oh my gosh." Like, he barks at us to get up so he can chase us. So this golden retriever showed me himself as like a border collie. What do border collies do? They herd. So he would get them up and he would chase them around, and he liked to hurt them.
Mhm. Well,
He wanted a little bit more exercise, but that was what was going on with him.
I would be curious to know what my, golden doodle thinks, 'cause all he does is sleep all day.
I'd have to see him or touch him, but keep this in, like, energy is energy. Like, when I do readings, I can do them via text, phone, video, in person, all of that, but I still have to, like, do you allow me to connect to your energy? That's the
Mhm.
everybody else, that's what I do. Do you allow me?
So
And, if you say no, then I don't know why you're here seeing me. But, yes, everybody says yes. And, we connect. They set intentions. I connect to energy. And then it's showtime. Then we do it.
yeah, this my dog, I say he's the most chillest dog because he just sleeps all day long and he has very rarely ever barked at anything.
Really?
Yeah, I we used to think maybe he couldn't hear, that he was deaf because he even when
Oh,
you would yell at him like to come here or what, he'd just ignore you, but
yeah.
he can definitely hear, he just chooses to ignore you, and
He was a cat in a past life,
yeah,
honey.
that's the
Sleeping all day and ignoring you? Okay.
yeah, so
I'll tell you that right now.
like, I had to go get him groomed today, so he hops in the truck and just lays down in the seat, doesn't even try and look out the window, he doesn't care, he just lays down. Yeah,
Really?
he's the most
You're
chillest dog.
lucky.
Yeah.
I put my dog in the car and you think he's gonna freaking have a panic attack.
That is what my other dog I have a German Shepherd, and
Mhm.
she is so high strung that they actually give her
Yes.
anxiety medication because of how crazy she gets.
We give our CBD.
Yeah, so they actually prescribed her, anti-anxiety medication. I was like, "I didn't know dogs could take this." I think it's
D
Cymbalta
my
or something.
sister has this puppy, he's a year old, he's a Bernese Mountain Dog, and I always say he's Swayze crazy. For whatever reason, he's gone. Anyways, they have him on tranquilizers, and she just went Saturday, I just talked to her, and they put him on, 2 Xanax a day, and that's like a every I'm like, "They're giving him Xanax every day?" They're like, "Yup." I'm like, "Oh my god." Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
I think we can wrap this one up, and
Okay.
for any information you have, again, if you wanna send me links, I'll put them in the show notes for anyone that's
Yeah,
curious.
I'm gonna relax and then I gotta work, but tomorrow I'll send you that picture of George from my office. I'll send you that picture of our partition
Okay,
and the spirit not being able to cross it, and, I'll send you some links to my pages.
awesome. Well,
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
it has been. Thank you very much.
You are so welcome, and thank you for having me, and happy birthday again.
Thank you very much for that. You have
You're
a
welcome.
you have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you would like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can also go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Just make sure to reach out and get a hold of me, and we will get something scheduled for a future episode. You can also find Tinfoil Tales on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Tinfoil Tales Podcast. You can reach out to me that way too. Remember to share the show around. Word of mouth is the best way to help the show grow. And just remember, truth comes at cost. Are you willing to pay the price?